Hey everyone, thanks for joining another Draw the Law with me, Ryan K. Hugh, and an attorney with Hugh and Bordenave. Um, if you've seen other past Draw the Laws, as you know, I'm a business attorney and I try and do little sketches and doodles to try and help you understand basics of business law. Let's just jump right into it and see what today's question is. What is limited liability? Right. So as somebody who helps owners form business entities like LLCs and corporations, doing contract law in terms of reviewing and drafting, frequently get questions about how do I minimize liability? How can I do asset protection? And why should I form an LLC or a corporation? And usually the topic of limited liability comes up in this context. So what is it? A lot of business owners know that they should form some type of business entity like an LLC or corporation, but and they know that there's something to do with asset protection and limited liability, but frequently they don't know what that means or why they should do it. So let's get into it. So with regard to, we're just going to use LLCs because that's easier, and that's what I typically help small business owners with is the LLC formation process. And if this circle represents the LLC, is frequently funded by a member. And that's the business owner. That is a person who owns the LLC. What they usually do when they're opening a business bank account or funding the LLC is they will take some of their money and put it into the LLC. So now the money is the LLC's money and not the individual member. The business owner is a separate person from the LLC person. So sometimes we'll say business entity or we'll use the word person, legal person. So LLCs and corporations are separate persons from the owners of the business entity. That's sometimes a very hard and abstract concept for people to get, which is why I represent it this way, as the LLC is a separate circle from the member. Now, LLCs and corporations are not living, breathing individuals like you and me and the viewer. Well, I'm hoping you're not a bot that's watching this video, but in general, individuals are legal persons, but business entities are also legal persons. They can own things and they themselves can be sued or sue others. And that is where the limited liability situation comes from, is that it's a separate person, and usually this generally means, in terms of limited liability, is that the members' cash into the business entity is they are limited up to the money they've invested into the company. So if you notice that this cash came from the member personally and they put it into the LLC, that is the goal of being liable up to that. Why is that important, or how do we get this kind of asset protection or limited liability? Well, let's take that situation again. So you have the LLC company and you have the member. So the member is somebody separate, right? And frequently you have a lot of business arrangements and interactions with the world around you. Sometimes those are positive things, and sometimes those are negative things. You owe people money. There's a debt. There's an accident with one of your company vehicles, right? And people are people are angry with you, right? So the thing is you want the LLC to be the responsible party. Why? Again, that concept of the member is liable only through what they've invested into the LLC. So all the money that is in there is what they're liable. Their personal assets things that they own personally and individually away from the LLC, that isn't that isn't on the hook. That isn't responsible to pay off the debts of the LLC. That isn't responsible for the LLC to litigate lawsuits and such as contract breach of contract, certain tort liability um, between the LLC. So again, the member being a separate person from the LLC, they're only liable to what they've contributed, or they're limited to what they've contributed into the LLC. And that is how limited liability works, is that it's due to the separation of entity. Now, the wrong thing that a lot of business owners get is limited liability in itself is limited. I know it sounds kind of is that there are certain times that limited liability will not apply, and that people suing the business entity may also sue the member and try and go after their personal assets. And those are things that people should be aware of. Really quickly, some of the ways that people fail to protect themselves or get into issues is, one of the biggest things is the banks. The banks, when they give a loan out, will frequently have the business owner sign off on a personal guarantee. So while the loan money might go to the LLC, the member of the LLC, if you remember them from the other one, they will sign the personal guarantee. Thus, they are personally liable to the bank for the debt obligation on the loan to the LLC. So by signing the personal guarantee, it makes them liable to the bank. That's one way. On a compliance way, frequently what people get in trouble with their LLCs or lose that asset protection, that limited liability thing, is the member does some sort of action. That is, they do action X, which causes them to be personally liable. What are some examples of that? Frequently in terms of not following the separation of identity. So you should have a separate bank account for your LLC. They commingle funds. They defund the business bank account, thinking that there's a lawsuit coming, that they'll take money out. And try and hide it. So those are ways that what we call piercing the veil. The veil being the limited liability shield. It is frequently in that way you can lose limited liability. There are other ways, but those are generally the biggest situations of most small business owners care about, is personal guarantees or doing some type of personal or criminal or fraudulent action that a court would basically say is, single member or member of LLC, you didn't respect the boundaries or separation of the LLC, that it's a separate entity, and therefore we're not going to limit your liability just to the LLC. We're going to make you personally liable for, if you remember, things possibly like your contract debt or your tort, which is slip and falls, car accident type of claims against the LLC. So thing is always recognize the separation of the entity from the personal self. And that would be the goal of maintaining limited liability of an LLC or corporation. Hope that helps. Keep your questions coming. We'll probably be talking more about LLCs and corporations in future upcoming Draw the Law videos. Thanks for watching.